Welcome to Mild's Comics Plate. The following may contain copyrighted material under fair use. Vampirella is property of Dynamite Comics. Hey everybody, I've been looking forward to this for quite some time. Picked up the Vampirella #1 by Christopher Priest. Got that beautiful double spread Frank Cho cover. The A cover, so to speak. Now, if you've never read Christopher Priest, one thing to remember is he kind of does the Tarantino where he jumps around in the timeline forward and backwards. That's just his writing style. A lot of people talk about the title character of a comic book should be doing awesome things throughout the comic book. Christopher Priest tends to point out the mental state of his title characters quite a bit, so there's not as much action as some superhero type comic books, but I really enjoyed this Vampirella. Let's jump right into it here. I'm going to skip the first couple pages because essentially the first couple pages just show the ruins of a plane crash. And the big title spread here, a few pages in, show the overview of this downed plane. It's a beautiful double spread here by Ergun Gunduz has done the art in this, and it's pretty well done art. Some of it looks like it may be 3D modeling. This airplane pieces look like some of them may be 3D modeling type, but overall the art is pretty well in this comic. So clearly what has happened is Vampirella has just survived a plane crash, or we believe so. Later in the comic we'll see that she was on the plane. So the next few pages is essentially her talking to a shrink. Gonna kind of skip around. She's talking to a shrink about this plane crash. So it jumps into the future, and she's having this conversation. But we're seeing the events on the plane in flashback form, and she's just chilling in the plane. And we're introduced to Von Christ. And, this comic does a good job of telling us what Von Christ's powers are, not so much Vampirella. As a #1, you kind of want to introduce the title character a little more, in my opinion, but again, Christopher Priest cares more about her mental health in some ways, which makes for a good story, but it doesn't really show Vampirella's powers. But Von Christ's powers is that he never ages. I mean, that's actually the opposite of what his powers are. He perpetually ages. He says here, well, it says it right here. He's immortal, but he's in a perpetual state of human decomposition. So yes, he's continuously rotting, but he can't die. And so what happens is she smells him on the plane, gets into a fight with him. He tries to choke her to death. She stabs him in the eye. Now that's the action. This is the main action of the comic right here. She has a fight with him. The plane starts going down. This is in the bathroom of the airplane. Yeah, so they get separated. She bites him. And, as we continue to go through the comic book, the shrink starts to doubt that powers exist, or that there's a such thing as vampires, etc., etc. Okay, so the plane's going down. She gets out, and she busts her wings out to get back to the ground while the plane crashes. Now we're assumed that in the panels before this, when she's walking through the wreckage, now at this point you're kind of mentally flashing back. Oh, she lost Van Christ. That's why she's mad. And you know, so she's talking about being an alien and not being able to go home. You know that her alter ego has now died in the plane crash. You know, she can't let people know that she has survived. And the shrink's like, yeah, vampires are the new Negroes. Welcome to my world. I'm board certified trauma specialist assigned to help folks cope with an accident. 170 dead passengers times 5 on the ground. And nuts like you. So here he's saying he doesn't believe that she was in the plane crash. She wasn't in the plane. You know, you half-naked Canadian bitch are not alien from Pluto. So he doesn't believe in any of this crap that she's saying. And then on the next page, it just kind of jumps around back to the plane. Here's a random dude. We don't know who he is yet, unless you're probably a bigger Vampirella fan who might know who he is. But, you know, this is just a little introduction that there was someone else on the plane. Okay, what was that? And then that one panel, that's just one thing, boom, and then they jump right back to after the plane crash. We're in Los Angeles waiting for the plane to land, and here's someone picking someone up, and then she realizes that the plane has crashed. And then we're introduced to this Stan, who we kind of saw earlier in the comic. He was a rat following her around, and now he's a spider. He can jump from body to body, I guess, possessing people. And that's what she says here. Waste of time. Stan will just inhabit another host. Vermin, rodents, insects, that sort of thing. She sends him to spy on me. And then he says she, yes, her. And then, of course, the last panel of the comic book is Vampirella's mother coming to see her at the shrink's office. So, you know, there's not a whole lot of action for a number one. But being a number one, you know, I understand the challenge Christopher Priest had. He has to introduce the character, introduce some of her powers, introduce a plot, introduce a villain, and still have some sort of conflict go on. So you have this conflict between Vampirella and the Shrink. You have the conflict between Von Christ and Vampirella. And, you know, it shows her doing something badass, escaping from a crashing plane. All in all, you know, I think this is a move. I think this is I give it an 8 out of 10. Not necessarily a 10 out of 10 because, you know, as a new reader, I walk away from this knowing very little about Vampirella's powers. You know, I can only assume that, you know, oh, it's vampire. She's a vampire. But no, there's deeper story than that. There's deeper lore. But you know, it's well written. You know, again, having read Christopher Priest before, I kind of expect some of the time jumping thing. Maybe other newer readers might not expect that. His little panels that he does, you know, where he shows Atlanta now, you know, it kind of helps with that. But if you're not really looking deeply to bounce that back and forth across the timeline, you may not be aware of that. You know, you may not pay as much attention to, you know, forward and backwards in time in these things. But overall, yeah, I like it. I'm looking forward to issue 2. I'm probably gonna keep picking this up. Yeah, it's like I said, it's a good comic, well written, decent art. You know, this particular issue, there's a lot of 50th anniversary stuff that they've included. They have like 5 pages of all the variant covers of this #1 issue. Quickly show some of that. You know, so there's a lot of artwork celebrating this 50 years of Vampirella and this new #1. But yeah, head to your place where you get comics and pick it up if you are interested in trying something new, or you're a big fan of Vampirella. I recommend. It's a big thumbs up. Anyway, if you like the video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, tell a friend, leave me a comment, let me know what I can improve on, let me know if you have any requests for future videos, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.